evening. So, welcome again to another episode of One Hot Topic. So, today is June 29 and it is 11 o'clock in the evening in this beautiful hot summer day in the city of Phoenix. So, we are done with our Miss Supranational and also Mr. Supranational. I actually did some videos for Mr. Supranational. Philippines placed fourth runner up. We are very proud of Kevin Kabunkal. Although not everybody is happy with the placement again, just like always, you cannot please everyone, but we'll get into that soon in another video. And I try to focus my YouTube videos, at least when I'm doing pageantry or covering pageantry, I try to focus just on the big five. The reason why I've been covering what's going on with Brand International is because of what happened to Miss Rachel Gupta. Other than that, I could care less about that pageant contest, or is that the strong word? I would like to just focus on the big five, which is going to be your Miss Universe, Miss World, Miss International, Miss Earth, and of course Miss Supranational is done already. I believe there is one also that was done, which is Miss World. And for Miss World, we know that Miss Opal Sochata was the winner. Now, Miss Universe, Miss International, Miss Earth, I believe, is coming up towards the end of this year, kind of more towards November. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. And while we are waiting for that end of the year pageant, international pageant contest, we'll be looking at some scandals and some things going on in the beauty industry or in the beauty pageant industry. So one of the things that attracted my attention and some of the people in Facebook and also in Instagram is actually an official statement that was released by the Miss Peru Organization. So this statement is in front of you right now, and it says, through this letter, we want to express our deepest gratitude for the opportunity to have been part of the supranational family for the past few years. It has been an honor to represent Peru and contribute to the growth of this prestigious pageant in our country. Through this letter, we wish to formally communicate our decision not to renew the supranational franchises for the Miss and Mr. platforms in Peru. This decision has been made after deep reflection and with the utmost respect for the pageant and everything it represents. We are deeply grateful for the opportunity to have collaborated with the international platform and its team, achieving important milestones together and proudly representing our country in the international competition. Over the years, we have celebrated significant achievements as well as numerous outstanding participations to have filled us with pride. We have always promoted the pageant in our country with respect and passion, successfully organizing a unique event for Miss and Mr. Supranational Peru. We would like to congratulate this year's winners and wish them the best at the beginning of their reign. We wish the Supranational Organization success in the search for its new representative in Peru, who we are sure will assume this responsibility with the same respect and dedication that we have shown. And it says, Miss Peru, sincerely, Miss Peru Organization. And this was actually originally in Spanish and it was translated to English. So what does this mean? I know a lot of commenters again are saying that it's because of all these things going on like favoritism, cooking show. I think they even say cooking show. Looking at what it says, if it was truly translated the way it's supposed to be translated, I would say that Miss Peru Organization dropping off from the franchise is more part of some strategic reassessment of where they're at. It seems like they are going through, just like what they're saying, a deep reflection, and that led them to that decision not to continue. The tone of the letter emphasized the respect for the organization and the appreciation of their past collaboration, and that's really good, right? I really appreciate the respect that is on this official statement from the Miss Peru Organization. It's very respectful, and at the same time it's not burning bridges with whoever is coming in to take that franchise. It seems like they also highlighted celebration of their achievements under their stewardship, and they did say they produced notable placements and elevating national interest in Miss and Mr. Supranational. They extended their best wishes to Miss Supranational international team in finding a new license holder in Peru. And that's how you should do it. So what does that mean for Miss Peru, or for at least for the country of Peru? So it means for now, there is no more Miss or Mr. Supranational Peru under the current Miss Peru Organization. So remember, just like when there was a transition between Binibining Pilipinas and the current Miss Universe Philippines franchise holder, there are several franchises. So it's not just, one country, one franchise. It could be that one country can have several franchises, one franchise holding the Miss Universe franchise, another one holding Miss Earth or Miss World franchise. And at least for Binibining Pilipinas, I believe they are sending candidates, or they are the franchise holder for, I would say, Miss International. They also hold the franchise for Miss Globe, I think, and something else. For now, for Miss Universe Philippines, they hold the franchise for Miss Universe Philippines, which is the MUP, and I believe they also hold the Miss Supranational franchise. So don't quote me on that one. So little things here and there that I learned. And if I make a mistake, I have to go back, and probably I cannot redo the whole entire video just to add or just to edit that mistake or error. But what I will usually do is that I will have it added on the description. Okay, so there will be hopefully a new franchise holder to be appointed in Peru. So they may still be represented internationally in future editions of Miss and Mr. Supranational International. Okay, so for this time though, it marks the end of a chapter, but not necessarily the country Peru's departure entirely from the Miss Supranational and Mr. Supranational organization. Okay, so did you know that the relative strength and visibility of Peru in international beauty pageants can be influenced by several factors? Number one is the pageant infrastructure and investment. So that is very important. Countries like Brazil, Colombia, and Venezuela, just like Philippines, and I would say Thailand, have highly organized and well-funded national pageant systems, because these countries invest heavily in training and grooming and preparing their candidates with professional coaching in runway, speaking, fitness, and public relations. At one point in time, I think this was years and years ago, that some countries actually, they even go through some minor cosmetic surgery, fix a little bit of some imperfection. Peru's pageant infrastructure has historically been a lot smaller and less centralized. So while there are dedicated organizations just like the Miss Peru Organization, the scale and the financial backing are usually more limited, again in comparison to Brazil, to Colombia, and to Venezuela. So in comparison again to those countries, Venezuela and Colombia, beauty pageants, I keep throwing Philippines in there because beauty pageants are a huge part of the popular culture, and sometimes even a national obsession, producing many, many winners and maintaining consistent public support and media attention. Peru, while it does have a following for pageants, generally has not cultivated the same level of widespread national enthusiasm or media hype around the contest over the years. And sometimes you can see this affect the recruitment pool. Of course, a sponsorship deal. That is huge. And also long-term development of pageant industries at a national level. So top pageant countries often run year-round boot camps and grooming academies to train contestants on poise, on diction, cultural awareness, and stage presence. And we see this one in the Philippines. I think that's what we call the pasarela. Pasarela in Tagalog refers to a runway, specifically the platform or stage where models walk in fashion shows. It's a Tagalog term for catwalk or runway in the context of fashion show events, and this is according to Cora. And it seems like they're doing lots of those in the Philippines continuously. as part of training and preparation. Another reason also that maybe Peru does not have that strong representation is it could be economic factors. I mean, everybody's going through some economic issues, but economic resources available for candidate preparation, the travel, wardrobe, and publicity can make a big difference. Wealthier or more invested countries can afford to support their delegates better. Peru's economic constraints and sponsorship challenges may limit resources compared to some of its neighbors like Venezuela, like Brazil, and like I would say Colombia as well. Another thing too is that countries like Venezuela have long-standing stable franchises with legacy of leadership and clear pipelines, and that is from local to national and also to international competitions. Peru's franchise holders have shifted, and you can see this one dropped as with Miss Supranational, sometimes causing that interruptions or inconsistencies in representation and candidate development. And you will see that coming up with Miss India because of the transition of the past franchise holder of Miss Grand International and going to the new franchise holder. I believe there was also a franchise, and like we said for Miss Philippines, there was a franchise transition of Miss Universe back in 2019 and 2020. Maybe on another video, let's look at what's the effect of that transition, because I believe we didn't win on those times, did we? I have to look. But it's also a good video to kind of look into what are the effects of those transition. Okay, so let's look at several of their candidates. Okay, let's start with Maria Julia Maju Mantilla Garcia. And of course, she doesn't have everything here, but again, she is the 2004 Miss World winner, and she represented Peru, just like we said. There she is. And this was just 12 hours ago, by the way. Okay, another person is Odia Garcia, and she placed top 8 for Miss Earth back in 2007. Okay, so this is Odia Garcia. Yes, she is indeed the candidate for Miss World in 2011, but she didn't place. She was unplaced at that time. But for 2007, she was top 8 for Miss Earth. There she is, and I think I can probably look at more pictures. This was from Miss World in 2011. 2007 was a long time ago, and we're not probably gonna see it here, but she is beautiful. So 4 years later, she again represented Peru. Okay, so that is Odia Garcia. Then we'll look at 2008 and Claudia Ortiz de Zevallos, and she is top 15 for Miss Universe. There she is. This Marc Jacob tote bag. Okay, so that is Claudia. Let me say her name one more time. That is Claudia Ortiz de Zevallos. So in 2009, they do have candidates, but nobody placed for Miss Universe, Miss World, and Miss International, and also Miss Earth. Miss Supranational, that is their starting year, so they didn't send any candidates for 2009. But 2010, they sent Guyana Zevallos for Miss Universe, Miss World, Alexandra Hidalgo. No placement for those two. Now in 2010, it looks like Miss Peru placed top 15 for Miss International, and her name is Laura Ispoya. So this is Laura. You can see a close-up photo for her. There she is. And this was only 6 days ago, so I would assume she was a lot younger than back in 2010. This was 2 weeks ago. Beautiful. Okay, so that's Laura Espoya. And in fact, in 2010, they also sent Claudia Villafuerte to Miss Supranational, and they did place third runner-up. So gorgeous. This is her. Okay. And again, her name is Claudia Villafuerte, and she placed third runner-up for 2010 Miss Supranational. Okay, so 2011, okay, they do have candidate for Miss Supranational, but she was unplaced. Same thing with Miss Universe, same thing with Miss World, Miss International, and Miss Earth. So no placement for those. And then in 2012 and 2013, no delegates sent to Miss Supranational. They did send delegates for Miss Universe, Miss World, Miss International, Miss Earth, but no placement. Same thing with 2014, no placement in the Big Five, and they do have candidates. 2015 as well. Now in 2016, Valeria Piazza, who is Peru's candidate for or delegate for Miss Universe, placed top 13. So her name is Valeria Piazza, and so here she is. Let's look at some pictures of her, and this was 3 days ago. And there she is. And she placed top 13 in the 2016 Miss Universe. Maybe this one? I'm hoping there's more pictures. Yeah. So again, like I said, if you are just looking just as standalone pictures, of course you go, how come she did not win, right? And then it's so easy to say, oh, there must have been favoritism. It's probably a cooking show, or else if it would have been me, she would have won Miss Universe. She was top 13. I would always be very cautious and look into it in the judge's perspective, because there is, again, not just the face, there's a lot more aspects of the competition that they have to take into consideration. Okay, the next year, which is 2017, they sent candidates for Miss Universe, Miss World, Miss International, and Miss Earth, and all those four were unplaced. But they sent Leslie Reina Salazar for Miss Supranational, and she placed top 25. So her name again is Leslie Reina Salazar, and I do have her here. She was only 23 years old back in 2017. How gorgeous she is. Gorgeous. So she placed top 25. In 2018, all of their candidates on Big Five were unplaced. So they sent 5 candidates and no placement for those. Okay, now 2019. On 2019, they sent candidates for Miss World, Miss Universe, Miss International, and Miss Earth, and no placement for those 4. But Janik Maceta on 2019 actually placed 3rd runner-up for Miss Supranational. So this is Janik Maceta. Looks like she is I would say, a model, Miss Universe, 2nd runner-up. And you'll see that she represented Peru the next year for Miss Universe. And there she is, Janik Maceta. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, so that's her. And then, like I said, the next year, 2020, she represented Peru for Miss Universe, and for that she placed 2nd runner-up. So that's good. So now 2021, they did not send any candidate for Supranational, Miss Supranational, so as 2022. No delegate was sent as well to Miss Supranational, but however, in 2022, they sent a delegate or a candidate for Miss International. Her name is Tatiana Calmel, and she placed 2nd runner-up. And here she is, Tatiana Calmel. Let's look at some pictures that she has here. Again, like I said, she placed 2nd runner-up for Miss International. Now, 2023, Peru sent candidates for Miss Universe, Miss World, Miss International, and Miss Earth. And I believe Miss Supranational as well, no placement. In 2024, which was just last year, they sent again Tatiana for the Miss Universe. And here is a picture that you see in front of you. For this year, 2024, she actually placed top 12. So she did not place top 10 or top 5. She placed top 12, and she is the America's Queen. I think this is a week ago, I guess, when she was doing her last walk as the 2024 Miss Peru. Okay, and again, like you would look at her and say, oh my goodness, how come she did not win Miss Universe 2024? In fact, she only placed top 12. So anyways, so those were the notable candidates for Peru. So my final thoughts on this, with countries leaving the international beauty pageant organizations, it does raise some important questions. So number one is the reality of holding a franchise. Because holding a national license for a big pageant like Miss Universe or Miss World, Miss Supranational, it's not just about selecting a pretty face. It's a serious financial, political, and reputational responsibility for the national franchise holder. So there are franchise fees, candidate training, the costs of wardrobe, travel, accommodation, public relations, and even marketing. All of these adds up. And for countries with limited sponsorship or public engagement, it becomes a financial burden. So as I was doing some research on how much it is that they are paying for these franchises. So here you can see that I have here a website from Sashes and Scripps Official. And as I scroll down here, she said it's unconfirmed, but it's franchise fee estimates of the Alpha 4 pageants. So we are looking at the first one is your Miss World. So your Miss World here is the first one. And she said they charge around a measly $10,000 for every national pageant. But there is a catch. Each pageant franchise are said to require to have a national pageant where its main winner goes to Miss World. So you have to run your own Miss World or a national pageant or national contest, and you select someone from that contest. Whoever wins that contest goes and represent your country to Miss World. Okay, so that's Miss World. Now Miss Universe is the second one, is most expensive, I think. And it says in here, Miss Universe is one of the highest fees holds one of the highest fees in the pageant circuit, as the pageant is the most competitive amongst the four. Newbie countries are supposedly charged around $10,000, while bigger and more competitive countries like Venezuela and Thailand are rumored to go beyond $100,000. Okay? Look at this. It is being rumored that the Philippines in 2024 paid about $225,000 for the Miss Universe franchise fee. Where did we place last year? Did we place last year in the 2024 Miss Universe? I have to look. Okay. And then Miss International, and this was updated back in 2018. So this was about 7 years ago. So just imagine how much it is right now. So this was updated back in 2018, and it says, according to some sources close to the national director of Miss International, the Miss International has a franchise fee that starts from $1,000, not bad, to $10,000. However, again, it says here, however, each of the franchise holders, national directors, can choose how much they can pay for the franchise fees. Okay, for Miss Earth, with the third biggest participants amongst the four pageant, the Miss Earth franchise fee are relatively smaller, although not as much as Miss International. So not sure about that, because I know, like we said, Miss International is between $1,000 to $10,000, but it says Miss Earth is actually relatively smaller, but not as much as Miss International. So I would say 500? No way it's 500, right? 500 to 5,000? That I'm not sure. Again, this was back in 2018, so it's not very current, but this is the only post that I can see that actually put a little bit of more kind of like an actual amount in there, although like we said, it is an estimate, and this was back in 2018. Now for Miss Supranational, as for right now, 2025, it says it's comparable to Miss Grand International. It's relatively low. I'm not sure how much it is for Miss Grand International. That is something that I don't want to take a look into, or maybe we should the next time, but not for right now. But it seems like around $1,000 per candidate or national director, which is comparable to Miss International way back 2018. I'm sure this is probably a lot higher right now. Another area to probably consider why countries leave the International Pageant Organization is the challenges in sending delegates. And we've seen that with Miss Peru. There are those years, I think a total of 5 years at least for Miss Supranational, that they didn't have a candidate. And sometimes, yes, countries do skip sending a candidate. And it's not, again, because they don't have a good one, but because of internal issues like, we will say, leadership transitions, lack of sponsors, also is very important. Maybe there is disputes within the organizations. We've seen that between MGI and Miss Myanmar organization. We've seen that between MGI and Miss India organization. Sometimes it's not always due to lack of interest, but it simply is not sustainable, or maybe not strategically worth for the organization, at least for the national organization. There is also, I would say, shifting in the landscape of pageantry. And this might actually be a turning point, as we are seeing a global shift from flashy glam and rigid standards to pageants that align more with values, with advocacy, and actual impact. If an international organization isn't evolving, or if it's too demanding without offering real value back to the national organization, then why would these national franchises stay, right? Peru leaving could signal that the pageant world is in for a reckoning, and more countries might follow. So, lastly, scandals, transparency, and ethics. Again, let's be honest. Pageant organizations are not immune to controversy. We've seen that time and time and time again. We've seen that from Miss Universe. We've seen that with MGI is the most latest one, right? Allegations of favoritism, mistreatment of delegates, lack of transparency, and sometimes even political interference can lead national directors to reconsider their ties to these international pageant organizations. And when contestants speak out, like we've seen in recent years, it puts pressure on national organizations to either clean the house or walk away. One thing that is bothering me, like I said this one on my 2 previous videos, is favoritism, or what we thought is favoritism, or fans thought as favoritism, or a cooking show. But personally, for me, I don't believe international pageants are some kind of a cooking show. And don't come after me for saying that. I think it's an easy label fans throw around when their favorite candidate doesn't make it, or doesn't make it higher than where they're at. But for me, that's not fair, or not even an honest way to look at the competition. And yes, there might be moments of favoritism or politics, but that doesn't mean that the entire system is rigged. Because some girls genuinely perform better on stage. Whether it's their communication, it's their poise, their overall presence, it's possible to not place and still accept that someone else simply delivered a stronger performance. On Tara's case, I have to say, and I always try to ask myself, am I being biased? Because Tara is from Baguio City, I'm from Baguio City, or at least I'm from the Cordillera region in the Philippines. Am I being biased? But as I go over Tara's journey to winning the 3rd runner-up of Miss Supranational, I have to say that she did her very best, put in 101% of her effort. She was very consistent on all of the segments, as you have seen, as we have covered. Like I said, the only thing that I kind of questioned her performance was that what did she do on her talent portion that she did not at least make it to the semifinalists? Then again, that's just me thinking about it, right? It could be that there are other people that are better than her, right? And also that judges thinks are better than her. So I'll have to take that into consideration. It's not just my opinion that matters here. Calling the whole entire thing a cooking show just because your candidate didn't make the cut, that really discredits the whole entire group of women who did. These delegates work very hard. They train, they sacrifice, they show up. To just say it's all fake or it's a cooking show is like saying their efforts didn't matter and that only your candidate's efforts mattered. And I don't agree with that. Of course, I think there should be a lot more transparency. I do think that judging criteria should be more clear, but we can push for better standards, of course, without tearing down the women who made it. Because not everyone who wins is just there for politics. It's not just there because they are favored, highly favored, but because they're just the best at that time. So what do you think, guys? Should national organizations keep fighting to stay in these pageants? Or maybe is this a good time to rethink what success looks like for women on the global stage? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's talk. Thank you again for joining me in this another episode of One Hot Topic, and I'll see you again. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video as it really helps on the algorithm and the growth of the channel. Thank you. Bye.